In a time when new technology and innovations are seeming to bloom into effect every day, new challenges and controversies inevitably follow close behind them. One such challenge is the great debate of healthy versus not so healthy foods, which kind of makes sense considering that food is one of the most important foundations to sustaining life. People here in the United States tend to trust most foods. However, when man begins to tamper with food that is, in a way, out of the norm, people tend to hit the brakes and take a second look. The presence of synthetic chemicals that are added to today's common food selection seem to bear the blame for most of the health problems within our society. But while the poor reputation of synthetic chemicals does indeed have grounds in their sometimes less than great effect on people's health, their confusing and often scary names, as well as the blinding rate at which they've taken up residence in almost every common food product, you may find that they may not be as bad as people make them out to be. After many long, tedious hours of researching the various dreaded synthetic chemicals and little-known natural chemicals in some of our commonly consumed foods, I found a few that I would like to introduce you to that may perhaps clear away some of the mystery about synthetic chemicals in our foods and give you a little more insight into the common foods that you likely eat almost every day. Synthetic chemical number 1, butylated hydroxytoluene, or BHT. BHT is produced in nature by phytoplankton and cyanobacteria, but is produced synthetically for commercial purposes and is probably one of the most commonly used synthetic chemicals in food production. It is used primarily as a food preservative and can be found in products such as butter, meats, cereal, chewing gum, baked goods, snack foods, and beer. BHT has gained a reputation as one of the most feared synthetic chemicals in our food due to its poor reputation on the internet, its potentially carcinogenic nature, and the fact that it is also used in products produced by the oil and rubber industries, as well as the pharmaceutical and cosmetic companies. However, what people tend to forget is that BHT has and is repeatedly being put through numerous scientific studies and carefully scrutinized by the FDA. While there has been solid research-based evidence that BHT can be harmful in very high amounts, it has been shown that in low amounts, BHT is perfectly safe and may even include positive antiviral effects. But what does this low amount of BHT look like, you ask? In 2012, it was estimated by the Panel on Food Additives and Nutrient Sources that the average adult is exposed to 0.01 to 0.03 milligram over kilogram per day of BHT at the most, which is well below the acceptable daily intake of 0.25 milligram over kilogram per day of BHT. Synthetic chemical number 2, monosodium glutamate, or MSG. MSG is a sodium salt derived from glutamic acid, an extremely common amino acid that is naturally present in all foods and even produced by the human body. Back in the day, MSG used to be extracted from seaweed, but nowadays it is being made synthetically for the sake of efficiency. However, the chemical structure of the naturally occurring MSG extracted from seaweed and the synthetically produced MSG are exactly the same. Where can you find synthetic MSG? The answer is in almost any food that has been processed or flavored, including chips, crackers, flavored nuts, both meat and vegetable broths, creamy soups, broth-based soups, instant soup mixes, ramen noodles, frozen dinners, and salad dressings. MSG gained its poor reputation of being harmful due to what is commonly known as the Chinese restaurant syndrome. According to the European Food Information Council, people whom had eaten at Chinese restaurants reported experiencing symptoms such as a burning sensation along the back of the neck, tightness in their chests, nausea, and sweating after their meal. The EFIC reported that MSG is commonly used to prepare Chinese dishes, and so it seemed reasonable for people to blame their symptoms on it. However, a later investigation found that these individuals were suffering from Chinese restaurant syndrome due to allergic reaction to some of the other ingredients in their meal, such as peanuts, shrimp, or spices, and not the MSG. The European Food Information Council assures that in the course of over 100 studies conducted on MSG, and after being put under the rigorous evaluation of the FDA, there has been no evidence that MSG carries any hazardous health effects other than that some people may be sensitive to it in the same way that they may have a food allergy. Okay, time for synthetic chemical number 3, propylene glycol or PG. Somewhat like BHT, what makes PG so controversial is its suspiciously wide variety of uses. The fact that it is present in antifreeze, airplane deicers, engine coolants, enamels, paints, varnishes, tobacco products, and food naturally makes people very distrusting of it. However, it may be helpful to mention that the reason why PG was added to antifreeze was to replace ethylene glycol, which, according to naturalnews.com, was known to be the cause of significant harm to pets that would lap up antifreeze. Since the ethylene glycol was replaced in antifreeze by the much safer propylene glycol, the harm caused to pets that lap up antifreeze has significantly been diminished. PG is derived from mineral oil, which is an alcohol produced from the fermentation of yeasts and carbohydrates. Thus, PG is used as a carbohydrate when added to foods. PG is used in foods as a thickener, sweetener, solvent, and preservative. PG can be found in food items such as butter, cake mixes, soda pop, ice cream, barbecue sauce, salad dressing, hot sauce, frosting, flavored coffees, and alcohol. Naturalnews.com reports numerous studies have been conducted on PG, and the results have been rather contradictory. However, the grade used in foods is closely monitored by the FDA and far below the grade that could potentially cause harm unless someone already has an allergy to PG. I hope that you may be starting to notice a trend among these 3 synthetic chemicals. All of them are extremely common in foods that we eat every day. They all have gained poor reputations from the harm that they may cause either allegedly or in high amounts, and they all have a broad variety of uses that span outside of the realm of simply food production, which still scares people despite the fact that they are consumed in the US and the amounts that are strictly regulated by the FDA and have undergone numerous amounts of scientific studies testing their safety. You might be thinking, well, yeah, but those studies and regulations don't mean anything to me if they still have the potential to be harmful, and other people are claiming that they're harmful. I just don't trust any foods with chemicals that could be poisoning me. Well, the truth is, synthetic chemicals are not the only chemicals in our food that have the potential to harm us. So let's take a quick look at a few natural chemicals found in commonly consumed organic superfoods. Natural chemical number 1, oxalate. Oxalate is an organic acid that is synthesized by the human body. High amounts of naturally occurring oxalate can be found to be present in plants such as spinach, rhubarbs, beets, kale, nuts, cocoa, wheat bran, strawberries, and almonds. Oxalate has been known to prevent mineral absorption in the body since it has a habit of binding to the minerals in the gut. It also has been linked back to an increased likelihood of kidney stone formation. According to the Children's Medical Center of Dayton, here in the United States, 75% of kidney stones in patients are made of calcium oxalate compounds. For those who have trouble with kidney stones, a low oxalate diet is usually the first thing to be prescribed. An article from the University of Chicago describes a low oxalate diet as consuming less than 100 milligrams per day of oxalate, while the average intake of oxalate from a regular diet includes 200 to 300 milligrams of oxalate. This high intake of oxalate should be of little concern to people with healthy gut functions. However, people with a history of sensitive gut functions should be cautious about their oxalate intake through the foods that they eat due to its strong connection to kidney stone formation. Natural chemical number 2, inositol hexaphosphate or physic acid. The primary function of physic acid in nature is storage of phosphorus within plants such as grains, legumes, nuts, and seeds. According to Authority Nutrition, physic acid poses health concerns to developing countries as well as vegans and vegetarians who have diets that are limited to mostly foods containing physic acid. This is due to its ability to impair absorption of vital minerals such as iron, zinc, and calcium that are being digested at the same time that the physic acid is being digested, meaning it only inhibits the absorption of minerals from foods that have been consumed in the same meal as the physic acid. This inhibition of minerals can certainly lead to potential mineral deficiency. However, physic acid also has some major health benefits, such as acting as an antioxidant. It does this mainly by impairing the absorption of iron, which can act as a free radical and contribute to oxidative stress, according to BreakingMuscle.com. An article from PreciseNutrition.com reports that it can also work to reduce cholesterol, as well as promote controlled blood sugar levels, and is suspected to protect against cardiovascular disease, cancer, and diabetes. So while phytic acid can potentially be harmful to us, it does have many benefits that can certainly be reaped while its harms are avoided, all with a well-balanced diet. Finally, we come to natural chemical number 3, prussic acid, also known as cyanide. I'm sure you're all familiar with cyanide's known usage as an extremely lethal poison, but what you may not know is that it can be found in natural abundance within apples, cherries, peaches, apricots, and raw bitter almonds. However, the cyanide in the fruits mentioned is most heavily concentrated in their seeds or pits, while their flesh contains so little that it can be considered negligible. So don't cut out all these fruits from your diets just yet. In fact, the amount of apple seeds that would have to be consumed in order for their cyanide content to be lethal would be about 1 cup. However, cherry, peach, and apricot pits have significantly more cyanide than apple seeds, enough to become harmful after ingesting only a few, depending on the fruit. But as you probably already know, ingesting these pits is a rare occurrence due to their large, tough outer shells. Raw almonds have the highest cyanide content, with each almond having the capacity to produce 4 to 9 milligrams of hydrogen cyanide once ingested. A lethal amount of cyanide is 100 to 200 milligrams, or 0.68 milligrams per pound of body weight. This means that it would take only 16 of these raw almonds to kill a 150-pound adult. However, when prepared and eaten properly, the risk of cyanide poisoning from any of these foods is almost non-existent. Now, I'm not trying to tell you that all synthetic chemicals are perfectly safe, while natural chemicals are terribly hazardous and should be avoided at all costs, or vice versa. Both natural chemicals such as oxalate, phytic acid, and cyanide, as well as synthetic chemicals such as BHT, PG, and MSG, have the potential to harm us. But as you've probably figured out by now, that doesn't mean that they always will. As opposed to picking either the synthetic chemical group or the natural chemical group as one being better than the other, perhaps it is merely a case of quantity versus quality. If any of these chemicals, synthetic or natural, are taken in excess, they can indeed be very harmful. However, when they are taken in the proper way and with moderation, they can not only be perfectly safe, but can also provide wonderful benefits such as enhancing taste, quality, efficiency, and even your health. The fact of life is that chemicals are entirely unavoidable, since they are in absolutely everything and everyone. So next time you're worried about what chemicals go into your food, don't be intimidated by them. Instead, do some research, find out the facts about them, figure out what's safe for you and what you're comfortable with ingesting, while keeping in mind that it's the quantity of the thing that counts. And perhaps you'll find that not all chemicals in our food, whether they are synthetic or natural, are that bad.